So today's presentation is called 5 Ways to Improve the Holidays with Your Family. So buckle up. We're only a few weeks away from Christmas, if that's the holiday you celebrate. New Year's is quickly around the corner, and there can be a lot of expectations about how to make these holidays as fun and as full of connection as possible. So as always, I just want to remind you that we have these presentations every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time, and you're welcome to listen live like you're doing here, which I appreciate, or you can have a recording emailed to you. So send along this information to a friend or family member who might enjoy watching some or all of these videos, and let me know if there's a topic that you want to make sure we discuss. So a little bit about me. I have a doctorate in school psychology. I also have licensure as a mental health clinician in the state of North Carolina, and I have a solo practice here called Charlotte Parent Coaching. In addition, I'm the author of 2 parenting books, one that's called Better Behavior for ages 2 to 10, and that's how to focus on raising kids who are well-behaved, good listeners that you feel connected to, and that's for the younger age group. And then I also have a newer book that just came out last February called Adolescence: A Parent's Guide, and both of those can be found on Amazon. I also host a weekly podcast with my teenage daughter called One Day You'll Thank Me, and it's full of information. Every week, we either do a solo episode or we have a guest expert on, and we talk about all sorts of topics. Some upcoming topics that we're going to be discussing include, let me think what's next. We're going to be talking to a student athlete and talking about his experience of being on an athletic scholarship and trying to balance the demands of that with being a student. We're going to talk with somebody about managing grief in teenagers and young adults. We are going to talk about raising emotionally intelligent young men. We're going to talk to somebody about domestic abuse and what parents can be doing to make sure that their teenagers get into healthy relationships. So we talk about some serious topics, and so far our guest experts have been just fantastic. And I have a team of people. Laura is my editor, and I have Julie, who is an assistant. She does a lot of things, but one of the things she does is assist me with a podcast to make sure that we have accurate show notes and that we can present it in our best light on social media. So I thank them for their hard work. So join us on Wednesday mornings. You can subscribe to our podcast really easily on any podcast platform, whether it's Spotify or Pandora or Apple Podcasts or I think it's called Pod Addict, any of those. All of those, I'm on there. So one day you'll thank me. Today, instead of showing my picture, I put a picture of that time my Christmas tree fell over, and that was in 2014. And we decorated the whole tree. And then we went upstairs, and my daughter had a friend over, and all of a sudden we heard this crash, and our Christmas tree looked like this. So then I spent the next 2 hours unwinding all the lights and carefully taking off as many ornaments as I could to try to create a Christmas tree that did not look like it had just been dumped on the floor. We actually think of it as a pretty positive memory because it was pretty funny. Let's talk about our 5 tips. Okay, so our first tip is going to be to let go of unrealistic expectations. In fact, I have an email. Let me just read it real quick. It's from a dad, and he had seen, he's in one of my Facebook groups, and he had seen that we were doing this talk today, but he couldn't attend it. And he said, "My wife always wants to create a magical Christmas, but she drives my entire family crazy. She then acts like a martyr when we don't enjoy it as much as she hopes we do. Any tips for this?" So it kind of inspired me to move this tip up to number 1, because it's really important for families to recognize, like, it's not about the holiday being perfect. It's not about having the hot cocoa, or it snows that night, or you all line up at the same exact time and listen to this story that you read every year. It's really about connecting with your family and being responsive to what's going on, right? So if you had what was really fun and enjoyable for them when they were 2, 3, 4, 8 years old, might to them feel like a somewhat outdated tradition, and it might be time to spice things up and do things new. So it doesn't mean that you let go of those traditions as far as it's anything to be upset about. It just means making sure you're responsive to what your family's going to find enjoyable. And so to that mom out there who is really working super hard and probably much harder than their family and then feeling resentful about it, make sure you pay attention to who you're doing it for. Because if people aren't enjoying it, if it's too stressful, if there's a lot of pressure, if they're watching you run around and be haggard and sleepless and they just can't muster up the same degree of urgency over some of the small details, I really encourage you to take a second look, take a deep breath, maybe check in with your family and figure out what are the things that really signify the holiday, and hold on to those and let yourself breathe and come out from behind your camera and get out of the kitchen and actually spend time and really be present with the family versus spending weeks decorating and cooking and trying to create this like image of what Christmas or the holiday means. So for this, pick one or two must-do activities and prioritize those. So if the kids want to decorate the tree together, or if they want to make these certain holiday cookies, or they want to have grandma and grandpa come by to open gifts, as long as it's COVID safe, whatever it is that your family prioritize, pick one or two and make sure that everybody feels invested in making sure to set aside that time and making those moments as special as they need to be. So if y'all drink a favorite Christmas tea and have candy canes, like paying attention to those details to get the tea and the candy canes and get everybody in the same room, that might be enough of the details that you need to worry about at any given time versus, having your to-do list be so long that it's hard to enjoy anything. So I already mentioned making sure that traditions grow with your family. So my kids, they're older now, they like to watch movies that are a little less young kid and more risque, or they're just older and funnier. And so their humor is becoming more adult-like, and the games we play, we play less of exploding kittens or apples to apples and more Cards Against Humanity. And so they just get around the coffee table and they're just screaming with laughter, and that's what the holiday season means to me. So, and then also make sure to set healthy boundaries with extended family. Now, with COVID this year, I know that people's holiday season looks a little smaller than normal. Maybe you're not even getting together with that extended family, so boundaries just don't need to be the same. Or maybe it's more important than ever that your boundaries are really strong because you and an extended family member may have a different perspective of what the holiday should look like when you're using COVID precautions. So on some of the parenting boards that I'm on over the weekend, there was a lot of discussion amongst the mothers about, well, my parents, the grandparents want to come for, a lengthy stay the week of Christmas, but they have been out and about. They don't believe in masks, whatever. And if the families are really struggling between, how do I say no to my parents? Or what if my parents aren't going to be here next year and I said no to them spending time with their grandkids on Christmas? And so a lot of that is, you need to make the decision that's best for your children or your family right now. You need to have a united front if you have a co-parent or a spouse. And I don't think that parents need to get into a pattern of apologizing for their parenting decisions as long as it's done in a mindful way. And then letting them know what is acceptable. Maybe you will open Christmas or presents under the tree Christmas morning with them on Zoom. Or, maybe you will meet in an outdoor place to have some hot chocolate or go sledding or wherever, whatever's accessible in your area of the country or the world. So you have to really think about what's going to be best for your family and what's in line with your values and what reflects the recommendations right now from our medical health professionals, and really feel comfortable standing by that. It's a tough one though. The next thing, and I mentioned this a little bit in tip 1, is giving the advance warning. If you have teenagers, a lot of times they start to develop an idea in their own heads of what the winter break will look like from school. They think, okay, I'm going to go over to this friend's house because they do some certain fun thing. I know when I was a kid, I had some traditions with my friends, that we would go Christmas shopping together, or we would have a present wrapping party, or like with my best friend, we did fondue with her family on Christmas Eve for several years. And so they sometimes get an impression of in their mind of what they want to do, and their plans within reason should be respected. So that's why it's really important to have a family meeting or a family discussion, really decide what needs to be prioritized, and then make sure that everybody gets a little bit of what is going to make them feel good during the holidays. So it will go better than dragging your kids somewhere, having them feel resentful or feeling like they're missing out on something. And so if you can get them to make a commitment about, the day, the time, the place, are we bringing friends? Is this something that's going to be a significant event that's going to cost a lot of money? Like whatever it is, you want to be able to make those expectations clear, and then discuss the consequences if they have poor follow through. So if they agree that y'all are going to get this favorite takeout restaurant dinner and have it around the dining room table, and then you're going to do a game night on, December 23rd, and they decide not to come, then you might have to discuss with them about, hey, what's like, if there needs to be consequences for them just blowing off your plans, because it is important that kids learn to keep their commitments. It's important for them to recognize that if they made a commitment with one person first, they have to communicate that commitment to other people and make sure that everybody's in the know about where they're going to be and when. Where they're going to be and when. And then also remember that your job as the parent isn't to create the most happy holiday season evermore. Like, kids have to take responsibility over their attitude, over their sense of gratefulness, how they frame things. It just has to be something where we try to set the stage for things to go smoothly by making our expectations really clear, and also giving kids a heads up if there's something that's just a flat out no. I mean, if your kid asks for a gift that is not gonna happen, whether it's because you don't want to dedicate your budget toward it, or you don't think it's in your child's best interest to have that gift, then letting them know as soon as possible versus having them hold out hope would probably be a good thing to do, just so they don't walk around feeling like a victim of something. Number 3, this one, I just listed it as acknowledging the role of technology. So much of the gifts that are being promoted, online and, Black Friday deals and things are technology. First of all, it's just a really significant part of our world right now. Also, with COVID, we are relying more on technology to have kids socialize, to get their schoolwork done, to entertain themselves. And really, the only thing I want to say about this slide is just recognize that if your child has spoken about receiving technology as a gift, oftentimes technology has a bigger price sticker on it. Just recognize that if that's a priority, that if you're prioritizing technology for your kids, recognize that they are too. So you may sort of lose your kid to the winter break as they go and put together their high quality gaming PC. They're probably not going to feel pretty good or feel content with, okay, here's this amazing high powered technology item, but we're going to have you restricted to an hour and a half per day. Just sort of recognize the role that technology has the potential to play, depending on how much you allow it to take precedent in your home. So I'm not telling you like, don't buy your kid something awesome, but just recognize you're sending a certain message about it. The kids are going to respond to that message. And so it's probably going to be really important that if you're going to have some boundaries around it, that you convey them to the kids as early as possible. So let's say that they're going to get this new great gaming PC. You might tell them, hey, the first 2 or 3 days as you're getting it put together the way you want, I want you to really enjoy it and have fun. You're still going to participate in certain family activities that we've already planned. And so I expect you to be able to step away from your computer and not be grouchy about it. But once school starts back up, it's not going to be a free-for-all. when it comes to gaming. We're going to, we have to prioritize school, and you're going to be limiting your technology time to this amount of time per day. So it's going to be really important that they understand that just because they have this costly gift and it's really awesome, that they still have the expectations of moderate use, connecting with family, prioritizing school, and spending time with friends in real life as much as possible. And also just remembering that we're role models. So if we get some awesome technological device for Christmas, then, we have to role model moderation also. All right. This one, actually, when I was talking about this presentation, this is one that my teenage daughter, Anna, who also co-hosts the podcast with me, that she made mention of as feeling really important. And she's familiar with Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages. And he discusses 5 ways in which people typically receive messages of love. And he talks about quality time, of course, spending time with somebody, acts of service, which means doing something for someone to take it off their plate. So my husband is really amazing at acts of service, in that he'll, get up and walk the dogs in the morning so I can sleep in, or he'll take care of dinner when he knows I have late appointments with clients, things like that. Words of praise, which is like verbal affirmations, making sure your family knows that you love them, that you're proud of them. Physical affection, which is physical touch, whether it's a hug or a high five or a back massage or sex, whatever it is, your partner, that could be something that they prioritize as far as receiving a message of love. And then receiving gifts or tangible items. There are some people who really find that is an expression of love. And all of these ways of receiving love are perfectly fine. There's not one that's better than another. Most of us trigger 1, 2, and maybe as many as 3. Most of us don't have one that we use all the time. But my daughter was pointing out that if you're aware of what your family members' love languages are, or love language is, to really tailor their time during the days you have off from work, or the gifts that you give them toward meeting that need in them. So if your child really enjoys having quality time with you, then you might give a gift that's, we're going to go and paint pottery, or we're going to go together and get ice cream, or we're going to build a Lego set together, or I'm going to sit down and play video games with you for a while. So to really make sure that your gifts and your expression of love express what it is that your kids find the most rewarding. And it's also great if you can reflect on your own love language and convey that to your family so that they know how to best support you. So for me, when my kids are helpful around the Christmas, season, for us, we celebrate Christmas, and they help decorate the tree, or they go ahead and, decorate the cookies or clean up dinner or whatever it is, like, I feel very seen by them. I feel like they're connecting with me because they're helpful and present and just physically in the same room with me. And I think my kids know that, and my husband certainly does. And so that makes this Christmas season for our family more enjoyable. So just keep that in mind about your family members, and do what you can to speak the members of your family, to speak their language, and then do what you can to convey what your love language is to them so they have the opportunity to do the same. It really can increase feelings of connectedness and feeling really appreciated during the holiday season. This last tip is basically recognizing the dual role of grief and gratefulness. So I don't really think there's anyone in our world right now who isn't experiencing some sort of grief or sense of loss over the impact that COVID is making. It could be things like finances being impacted. It could be just a general sense of anxiety and unease from worrying about our loved ones. It could be that certain public places or favorite places are closed or restricted. I know for me, I really miss going out to dinner with my family. That was always a really fun activity for us. We always had a great time and got along. And even though we get takeout, it's just not the same as sitting in a restaurant and really dedicating that time to each other and not getting distracted by phone calls or the dog barking or just the mess that's on the kitchen counter. Also, too, is there's a lot of grief if you have actually lost someone during the time of COVID, or you've lost someone in the past near the holiday season, or your access to loved ones is really limited right now, either because they're ill or because you're protecting them from getting ill. So in my family, we have a new family member who has been here since June and nobody's met her because of COVID. And so it's hard to think that we're going to get through her first Christmas and not have her be part of it in my home or me getting to spend time with this baby. So recognizing that this is a time of grief, it does not mean that that's all it is. And there is a lot of opportunity for gratefulness. So helping your kids sort of reframe some of those moments. And I've mentioned this diagram, this triangle diagram before when we've talked in the past about, your thoughts lead to feelings. So if you have the thought of this Christmas is going to be terrible, I'm not going to see my new baby niece, there's nothing fun about it. And then, I generate these feelings of sadness, loneliness, discouragement, anxiety, whatever it is. And then my behavior is that I want to sleep more, or I'm having a hard time enjoying the rest of the family that I do get to see. And it kind of can get into a cyclical pattern where, thoughts lead to feelings, and then feelings lead to behavior, and then behavior then further solidifies the thoughts. So if there's at least one part of that dynamic that you can change a little bit and modify so that you can more easily grasp onto moments of gratefulness, that can be really helpful during the holiday season, because we certainly don't want everyone to be, discouraged and unhappy. We do want people to recognize that there's aspects of our life that continue to be positive and that we should feel grateful for. So I don't want anybody's grief or discouragement to be dismissed. You can absolutely have that coexisting with some things that you feel grateful for. So some of that, of course, is role modeling this for your children. All right, we talked about 5 tips. Aside from the question that was emailed to me by the dad who said that his wife was getting overwhelmed with what her image of Christmas is, I don't see any other questions right now. And I really do encourage you to reach out if you have any. We're going to do, I believe, 2 more of these presentations, these weekly presentations before the holiday season. I will not be doing one on the Monday after Christmas. That's just going to be family time, and then we'll continue after the new year. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this helpful. Have a wonderful day and have a wonderful holiday season.